promise you my intro song.
Welcome back to the Spotlight. I am your host, Asir. This is DJ Biggs, and we are here with Attorney Griggs, a prominent Atlanta attorney. And just before we went to the break, we were getting into some terminology about, different types of crimes, as well as things you should know when going to court. However, Biggs had a question for the attorney, so we're going to let Biggs ask his question.
My question was concerning the children in the school system and the government taking over the school system. Was the teachers, while they was on trial, stated that they was asked to cheat for the test to be able to make sure the scores are reach a certain maximum so the school system can get so much money. So, and then it turns out to see that all the teachers that did go were, the Caucasian ones didn't go to jail, but all the black ones did go to jail. And what is it with that?
Well, let me say this. The allegation was that they cheated to make targets so they could get bonuses. And that the highest bonus was $1,000. The lowest bonus was $250. The individuals that were on trial didn't make any more, allegedly, than about $250, where the superintendent made $50,000. The individuals that came in to testify against the teachers that were on trial were the ones who made the money. So if this truly was about a RICO conspiracy to get bonus money, the people that came in to testify who are still teaching are the ones that robbed the community and that defrauded the young people. So again, I say that this trial was a circus. It was a sham. Not one child was remediated. Not one person in the community was made to be in a better place after this trial. And yes, there was a large amount of African Americans that were charged, where a large majority of the Caucasian Americans were not charged. So there was a disparity in the charging and ultimately the convictions.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, especially here in the South. It really doesn't surprise me, and especially in some of the southern counties in Georgia.
Yes.
That just does not surprise me that the majority was African American. And when we get to the domestic violence part of that, I want to touch back on that as well. So going back to how to handle yourself in court, and that we were talking about the youth and how I saw them in court, and I saw about 98% of our youth in Fulton County courts. And in that courtroom that I saw, they were facing 20 and 30 years probation. Let's talk about dress first. Let's go right down the line. We're going to talk about appropriate dress when you go to court. I mean, I don't understand. People need to know that when you go before the judge, you are actually going before a corporation. The legal system is a corporation. Jails are privately funded and owned. Not all of them. Some of them are owned by the counties, correct?
Yeah, most of them are owned by the county or the state, but Georgia does have 3 privately run prisons by CCA, which is Corrections Corporation of America. So, it is a business, the business of incarceration. And what people need to understand, when you go to court, there's only one person in Georgia that could determine whether or not you go to prison or you get the chair. And that's the Superior Court judge. So you should dress accordingly. You should come in at least respectfully. Don't come in there with a white beater. Don't come in there with your pants hanging off your butt. None of that stuff. Because this individual is going to determine whether or not you go home or whether or not you live or die. So at the end of the day, this is the most important appointment you could ever have. So you need to have a lawyer and you need to be dressed appropriately. You should understand the terminology. You have several terminologies you need to understand. There's the not guilty plea, there's a guilty plea, and there's NOLO. Guilty and NOLO are the same. Pleading no contest is basically saying I don't contest the charges. So that's a guilty plea. The only way you get to fight in your day in court is if you plead not guilty and have a trial. You can have a trial with the judge. You can have a trial with a jury. The trial with the jury is 12. It's between, if it's misdemeanor, 6 people. But if it's a felony, it's 12 people from the community that will determine guilt or innocence. They don't determine sentencing. The judge determines that, which is, again, the reason why you should have the deference and respect for the individual in that black robe, because they're going to determine your future. And something we really need to understand, a lot of those young people that are in court waiting on their particular trial are charged with armed robbery. In Georgia, armed robbery carries a mandatory 10 to 20 years in prison. Not probation, not a smack on the hand, not house arrest. I'm talking 10 to the door. And if you get the max, you're doing 20 to the door. So robbing somebody, with a gun or a replica of a gun can cost you the rest of your life. For, you know, if you're 19, you don't get out till you're 30, maybe 40. So you need to understand this, and that's the crime we see a lot of young people doing: armed robberies, carjackings, and burglaries. Burglaries get you 1 to 20 years in prison, unless it's a commercial burglary. Then there's mandatory 5 years in prison. So you need to understand that there are real consequences in Georgia.
Once again, you can call us at 404-751-5062. That's 404-751-5062. If you have a question for Attorney Griggs, someone says, make sure you stress the importance of voting.
Definitely. We're going to get to that in a minute.
We are. So we got to how to dress when you come to court. Dress like you're going to a job interview, basically, because that's how he's going to look at you. You don't want him to look at you and say that you're a thug and that's how he sees you. And talk articulately to the judge. Don't say, yeah, whatever. You say,
well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Don't talk like you're on the corner, because, again, this individual is determining your future. You do not want to be portrayed in the wrong light.
Someone gave me a question, and it says, as long as I tell the truth, why not tell my version of events to the police officer after I'm arrested? And then we'll go into the Miranda rights.
Okay, how many people know somebody that's talked their way out of a major felony? I don't know any. The best thing to do is to remain silent. That's why they read you your rights. You have the right to remain silent. So you force them to prove their case. Mm-hmm. You know, you've seen First 48. You've seen all the crime shows. First thing they do in there is start telling. I've never seen somebody that told it all and went home. You just go into jail. So I would advise that you stay silent. You invoke your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. Don't let them search anything without a warrant, and don't give them information as a confession or an admission that can be used against you. Again, you're not smart enough to talk your way out of this. Again, even lawyers, when they get in trouble, have a lawyer to defend them. There's a reason for that. You never see the state of Georgia or any other state go to court without a lawyer. They always are represented. So, I mean, I think that's just elementary. And you have to understand that for at least 200 years, this system has been incarcerating African Americans at an alarming rate. Okay? You're not going to beat the system by yourself.
And if you don't know your rights, we're going to read them to you right quick.
Yeah.
You have the right to remain silent. As he was saying, anything, even if you're innocent, you have no idea how that police is going to write up what your statement is. You don't know if they're going to leave out some information, if they're going to twist your words. You have no idea. It happens. It really does. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. That explains number one right there. It can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. Even if you have to spend the night in jail until someone gets you an attorney, wait for that attorney. Yeah. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And again, don't talk to anybody when you're in jail. From the point they pull out the handcuffs and detain you, you should say two things. Am I free to go? They say no. Can I have my lawyer? That's it.
Mm-hmm. And it says if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. That's where we go back to the court-appointed attorneys.
Yes.
And so if you're not happy with that court-appointed attorney, at least you have someone that's with you when you step in front of the judge and you're not speaking for yourself. And then you can make a phone call to Attorney Griggs and say, I need your help.
Yes.
And then the last one, this was the kicker for me. It says, do you understand the rights I've just read to you? Most of you teenagers and most of you parents who your teenagers have gone and talked to the police without representation, they're going to say yes because they don't know. They're scared. They don't know not to say yes. And then it says, with these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to me?
No.
You just waived everything that was your rights.
Yes. You have to understand, Miranda versus Arizona was a seminal case that determined what rights you have. And it's to compel certain testimony. Once you're actually detained, you have a right against self-compelled testimony, which is what you're giving to the police. The fact that they have to read these rights to you should let you know something. Something bad is about to happen. let me warn you before that bad thing happens. Take that warning, say, listen, I don't understand what you're saying, I need a lawyer. I don't understand, no, I don't waive any rights, get me a lawyer. That will cease all communication. Even if they come back and ask you again, I told you the first time, I want a lawyer, go get me a lawyer. That's all you need to say. You'd be amazed how easily your case will proceed at that point for the lawyer who will be representing you. But if you give everything, it's very difficult. You're now facing an uphill battle because you have confessed on yourself.
Let's go back to the police report. So let's say that a police report was written.
Yes.
And some evidence or facts were not facts according to the victim or the person that's trying to defend themselves. And they said, well, they didn't add this into the police report, or they left out this. You as an attorney, how do you rectify that?
Well, I mean, we have our own investigators. We do our own investigation and we provide witnesses, which is what the defense is all about. So again, you don't have to try to plead your case on the side of the road or in the police station or any of that. That's for a courtroom. I prefer to see a 3-line police report that says I stopped the alleged person, they didn't tell me anything. What that tells me is, oh great, I got an excellent case, because half the time the police mess it up anyway. So now that you're not giving them compelled testimony, you're not providing witness against yourself, we have something to work with. So again, think about the long term. Yes, you probably, if you don't talk to them, you're probably going to spend a couple nights in jail. But do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison? You got to think long term and not short term.
Wow. White collar versus blue collar crimes. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about that with Attorney Gerald Griggs. Thank you for tuning in to The Spotlight.
DJ Big.